Good morning. I am Irene Sánchez Ramos. I am a doctoral student in architecture and a master's degree in teacher training. I've worked in high schools in the STEM subjects, and currently I work as a teacher and researcher at Universidad Politécnica de Madrid. For this CIVAE 2021 event, I am going to share with you my communication, learning with catoptric anamorphosis, and educational experience. Geometry has always been a matter of study at the schools all around the world. Nevertheless, some authors, such as those that appear here in the screen, have shown in their researches that the students find difficulties in both comprehension and motivation of the matter, and they do not appreciate the importance of geometry for the future and its applications. These problems have been also perceived by me in my work in high schools. There have been some approaches to solve these problems, focusing on the application of the geometry in optical illusions and more concretely in anamorphosis, such as those researches. It is important to emphasize that all these researches are quite actual, which means that it is a new field in research. Therefore, the main objective of this research was to continue with this path to find a methodology that encourages the learning of geometry in secondary school and improve motivation and perception of the applicability of the subject in students. When we're planning the teaching of geometry to our students, it is important to consider the velocity and the way they acquire their spatial abilities. For that reason, the design of the intervention was based on the 5 phases of the teacher learning process described by the Hiele merit. These phases are information, guided orientation, explicitation, free orientation, and integration. This intervention was designed in the grade of Cuarto de ESO, corresponding to the 10th grade in the American education system, with ages between 15 and 16 years old. This intervention was done with 15 students in the subject of plastic, visual, and audiovisual education, that is arts. This course was chosen because these students are supposed to be more mature than students for lower courses. For that reason, they are more capable to understand the geometrical processes that are used to create the anamorphosis images, the anamorphic images. The objective was to work with concepts such as perspective, projectivity, and reflection. And this experience was developed in 5 phases, in which the students were gaining gradually more and more independence, and the role of the teacher was passing from be the principal agent to practically be absent. The work in groups was also very important in the first phases, but in the last one, the autonomy of the student was prioritized. The objective of the first phase was to get information about the knowledge of the students about the topic to be treated. For that, the activity was brought into practice was a debate using the questioning technique. The teacher asked questions to the students to generate a debate, and as a result, a lack of knowledge was detected. In the second phase, the objective was to make the students conscious about the problematic and theoretical concepts that are necessary to make anamorphic images. For this proposal, the teacher did a short explanation about the topics, and the lack of knowledge detected in the previous phases was partially solved. Nevertheless, in the rest of the phases, all of these concepts were reinforced thanks to the practical activities. In the third phase had a practical nature, where the students were working in groups and the teacher was only a facilitator. The work was divided in 3 activities. In the first activity, there is the activity 3 in the experience. The students received an anamorphic image and a cylindrical mirror, and they had to explore and answer some questions about that image. In the fourth activity, they had to analyze the deformation of an orthogonal grid and that was deformed in the mirror image. And in the fifth activity, it was just the opposite. They were given a deformed grid that was seen as an orthogonal in the cylindrical mirror, and they had to answer also some questions. These activities were very clarifier for the students, and they completed in a short time, and the work in groups was very helpful to level all of them. In the fourth phase, there was a turning point, not in the way of working, but in the difficulty of the exercise. The students were given a design and a deformed grid, so that the view in the cylindrical mirror was an orthogonal grid. And they had to draw the design that it looked rectified in the cylindrical mirror. Many students had problems to understand how anamorphosis work, and it would be very important to emphasize that this phase was quite frustrating for some students. However, with the support of their teammates and also with the punctual help of the teacher, all groups completed successfully the task. Finally, the last phase consisted in developing their own anamorphic design. In this last activity, students were working in their creativity with great results. Designs were in some cases very aesthetic and showed a good comprehension of the mechanisms of catoptric anamorphosis. The results were analyzed in two ways. On one hand, the teacher made an observation of the development of the experience. As I have told you, in the fourth phase, a certain level of frustration was detected in some students who took longer than expected to understand the mechanisms of anamorphosis. And it could be observed that working in groups was helpful for these students. Despite this, the results of the whole experience were very satisfactory in general, and the students submitted good works in the last phase. And maybe because of the difficulties they had to face, the final work was greater. On the other hand, a survey was carried out on the students after the experience to determine their perspective in the intervention. In that survey, 80% of students stated that working in phases and doing work in groups and learn individually had helped their learning, placing a special emphasis on the importance of cooperative work. Regarding to the degree of difficulty, 4 of the 15 students considered it high or very high, while the remaining 11 considered it of medium difficulty. 93.3% of the students, that is 14 of the total 50, ended up happy with the result of their work, an appreciation that is equal to the degree of satisfaction observed by the teacher. Finally, regarding the influence of this experience on the students' perception of geometry, in 20% of the cases their attitude towards the study of geometry had improved, and in a third of them the perception of the application of geometry in the professional world had improved. As a conclusion, the results obtained have been satisfactory, so we can conclude that the initiative may be of interest for its application in the classroom. The methodology of working groups and in phases that progress according to the phases of teaching and learning has been emphasized in both the teacher and the students as a valid methodology, following the line of other researches. In addition, the application of anamorphosis, being this an optical illusion little known by the students, and that can be quite striking, can constitute an important stimulus for the students' approach to geometry and for its application in other subjects. Here you have some of the references used to design this experience. Thank you so much for your attention, and of course you are free to contact me if you have some questions or comments. Thank you.